Thank you very much. I think, I just want to say that West Asia is what the term that we use here, and the Middle East is a term that is used in some other parts of the world to describe that particular region. We in India use the term West Asia, and scholars in the United States or Europe or some other locations use the term Middle East to denote that particular region. So essentially, what we are talking about here is the Middle East and including North Africa, the Arab states of North Africa. So we are essentially talking about that situation, and we're talking about some non-Arab countries as well, notably Turkey and Iran. So the whole thing is now falling into a common cauldron, if I may say so, which is the region which I propose to describe here. Of course, tomorrow or day after it could go into Central Asia, it could go into other parts of the world. But as of now, what we're talking about is the Arab world, including North Africa. We're talking about Iran and we're talking about Turkey. So, this is let us just go into a few basic concepts about this particular area. One is, and if I may say so, the way in which you can divide it. One is, of course, dividing it into Arab and non-Arab populations. And in that, the Turks and the Iranians are, of course, the major non-Arab players. Now, Turkey is in a particularly important position because under the Turkish Caliphate, a large part of the Arab world was under the control of the Turkish Caliphate. And Turkey, in a sense, was the colonial power, which is the colonial master over a large part of the Arabian Peninsula till the first decades of the last century. Iran had a Persian Empire, etc., but that was very, very long ago. But Iran has not been as active in West Asia or the Middle East, whatever you call it, as Turkey has been. But these are the two large powers outside the region. Inside the region, you've got Egypt, you've got Saudi Arabia, you've got these are the two major players inside the region, and now you have Iraq. Now, the first, let's just track the evolution of this whole thing over time. One particular box that we could keep it is basically the monarchical states. The states that are run by hereditary monarchies. You've got Jordan, you have Saudi Arabia, you've got the countries of which are in the GCC, Gulf Cooperation Council, Bahrain, Qatar, UAE, etc. These are monarchies run by hereditary monarchies. We call them the Sheikh, Amir, King of Saudi Arabia, the Amir of Kuwait, the Sheikh of Dubai, whatever it is, they're essentially authoritarian, absolutist monarchies running this. The second set is basically non-monarchical but authoritarian regimes. And in that, the Baath Party was a very important old philosophy. The Baath Party basically based itself on opposition to Western colonialism. It also based itself on opposition to the monarchies, and they kind of said that the monarchies are essentially acting as agents of Western colonialism. So, if the Arab world is to be really dynamic, the Arab world has to free itself from monarchies, because the monarchies are representing Western colonial interests. That was the point of view of the Baath Party. Saddam Hussein, as you know, was a Baath member. Iraq was ruled by the Baath Party. And today the only major country that is still ruled by Baathists is Syria. And a lot of activity is happening in Syria. So essentially you have a very clear schism between the Baath Party and monarchies. Baath Party is anathema to the monarchies. And the Baath Party gives us this raison d'etre, removing monarchies from the Arab world. So obviously, the monarchies also would like to see the removal of the Baath parties from the Arab world. It's a case of mutual dislike. So this is one, if I may say so, one set of opposing groups that we can talk about. The second is a much deeper and much broader thing, which is the question of Shia and Sunni. Now you have Shia Islam and you have Sunni. That is the two great schools of a very great faith, and that is Shia Islam and Sunni Islam. And of course, within Sunni Islam, you have the Wahhabis, and the non-Wahhabis. Now, the Wahhabis are those who believe in a very, very doctrinaire version of the faith. Now, some of us, at least believe that if you look at the Sufi traditions, if you look at the main currents of Islam, if you look at the way the religion has been a very tolerant religion for other religions wherever it has been in its period of growth, you will see that actually it's a very moderate and tolerant religion. I would, if you read the Holy Quran, for example, you will see everywhere they talk of mercy, of compassion, of beneficence. Overall, the message is definitely one of tolerance. If you look at the Bhagavad Gita, you'll find a lot of activity there which is related to conflict. If you look at the Bible, you'll find a lot of activity there that's related to people dying, etc., floods, pestilence, etc. The same goes for almost all the holy books of the great faiths. But because of the Wahhabi influence, because of the very strong Wahhabi theology, which is extremely confrontational, a perception has grown that Islam is particularly confrontational and Islam is not moderate at all, which is actually incorrect because the religion itself is extremely moderate. Unfortunately, Wahhabi Islam has been taken, quote unquote, as the pure form of Islam. For a long period of time, scholars abroad, including mostly the United States, Europe, etc., said that Wahhabism is a pure form of Islam in which the impurities of the religion are being removed. The reality is that some of us believe that Wahhabism is not even Islam. It's a completely different concept of the faith. Now, Wahhabism has met its ideological cousin in something which is supposed to be its opposite, that is Khomeinism. Now, Shia Islam is an Islam in which the government and the mullahs are supposed to be separate. In the case of Sunni Islam, in the case of Wahhabi Islam, the church and state are one. Because the Wahhabis are basically say a state that is ruled by Wahhabis, a royal family that is ruled by Wahhabi, the Saudi royal family. They intermarried with the family of Mr. Wahhab, who founded this religion about 300 years ago. And since then, the Al Sauds and the Al Wahhabs have formed in effect one single family. So the church and the state are in effect one. In Sunni Islam, this is definitely not the case. The church and state are definitely not one. And in fact, if you look at the real core of the teaching, it is that every human being has direct access, the same access to the words of the Almighty. And every human being is independent in the human being's own right. So it's an extremely individualistic faith. We look at the basic theology. But it has been converted into a church-state amalgam by the Wahhabis. Khomeini did the same thing for Shia Islam. Shia Islam was a complete separation of church and state. And the Maulvis were in one part, they used to argue, they would dispute about religious matters, but they would keep away from state power. In the case of Khomeini, Khomeini came up with this concept of the supreme judicia, the supreme, the individual who is the supreme leader. And the supreme leader has to be somebody who is a spiritual leader. So the spiritual leader also becomes the leader of the government, the leader of society, the leader of every aspect of Iranian life, or every aspect of life is regarded the supreme leader. He has the authority to interfere in judges, in decisions of the government, judiciary, military, people, every aspect of life. So, some of us therefore regard Wahhabism and Khomeinism. First of all, we do not regard Wahhabism and Khomeinism as in any way representative of Islam. We consider that to be quite different from the mainline teachings of Islam.